Hey everyone, good morning, good evening. I'm Nishagni, and this is Nishagni Tarot, where you receive inspired insights to create an empowered life. So, welcome to another episode of Books and Tarot. I know it's been some time since I made a video in this series, but I recently finished reading a book which I felt I had to review, and I wanted to review it so you could know more about it and take a call as to whether you want to read that book or not. And the book in question is Latitudes of Longing by Shubhangi Swarup. Now, Shubhangi Swarup is a Mumbai based author, and this book is based in India. It came out in 2020 and it did win a bunch of awards. The book is basically based in the Andaman Islands, which is one of the islands it's also called the Union Territory in the country of India. And it mixes nature, conservation, science with a fictional bunch of stories. So essentially, when I first picked it up, I had an assumption that this is going to be a novel which is just based in the wild, and primarily it would follow the lives of a certain number of characters. But after I finished reading it, I realized that this book is actually part, or rather I would say 70% non-fiction followed by about 30% fiction, and it's actually four distinct stories that are woven together, that sort of come in different segments, and then that they're kind of interwoven together to create a sort of, to tie all the knots together, you could say. Now, what Shubhangi Swarup has done is the author has focused on giving us the message of conservation, and the author does this through giving us information about the formation of the earth, the extinction of animals right from the time of the dinosaurs to current day, the way trees and plants grow, and how humans are interdependent with nature. Now, that scientific information is sort of the foundation or the fundamental of the book, and then Shubhangi weaves the characters' lives into the narrative. So we have a husband and wife duo, we have a mother and son duo, then we have people we would consider as tribals living off the land, and we have someone who is a sort of a nomad slash drug dealer of sorts, who has no ties with anyone but who benefits from the produce of the land to lead a life. So we have different narratives coming into the picture. Now, what I really liked about the book was the amount of research that the author has done. Now, Shubhangi has done a tremendous amount of research in terms of geological information, zoological information, but botany and anthropology and paleontology, and all the facets of life sciences and natural sciences are sort of covered in this book. So in terms of sheer research for you to understand the formation of the earth and how the earth came to be what we know it as today, this book is amazing. Now, at the same time, the same research affects the readability of the book, because at some point it felt like Shubhangi, the author started writing a non-fiction book, and then at some point decided to add a couple of fictional characters into the narrative to make it more engaging, or at least that's what they thought they did, right? So there was a huge dissonance between what the non-fiction portion covered versus the fiction portion. It felt like the fictional characters were sort of forced onto the narrative and they weren't really necessary, right? So I felt myself kind of confused. I didn't know what to feel when I was reading this book, and I was just sort of irked that there was a sudden shift in narrative between people, conversing about their day-to-day lives, and a sudden infusion of some sort of a scientific information which Shubhangi deemed to be relevant to the book. And it was just sort of a bit annoying, right? So, and even in terms of the four stories that are woven together, I felt like, if Shubhangi had written this book as a short stories or as an anthology of stories, then it would have worked much better. But by trying to weave all of them together into a single narrative and try to tie, all the loose ends into a pretty little bow, it sort of felt very forced, and I honestly don't see the appeal of picking up this book and making it, or rather giving it awards. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I know there are a lot of people who have liked it, but I personally did not like this book because of that. I felt the author could have done a better job had they chosen to keep this as a non-fiction book, because it felt like that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to share and disseminate information about conservation, which is a good thing, which is really good, and it's necessary, especially during these days when climate change is destroying the planet. When, you know, in my post, if you've seen my post, I've talked about the killing on the Faroe Islands and even in Norway recently of the minke whale. And those are just a couple of examples of how we are destroying the planet, and forcing a lot of animals towards extinction. So spreading the word about conservation is really important. But I just wish Shubhangi had done this in a non-fiction book and without forcing the fictional narrative onto the book, right? So the book by itself, I would give it 3 stars out of 5, and the 3 stars are primarily because of the significant research that the author has done. If this book had been a solely fiction book with just a bit of, sort of a background of conservation and nature, and the focus would have been on the people and their efforts towards conserving the environment, as opposed to just preaching about the history of the natural history of the earth, then it would have been a much better book. But at the moment, I would just give it a 3 stars out of 5. If you're purchasing the Audible edition, it is Raj Ghatak who has narrated the book, and Raj has I think they come from a European background because they have a very British sounding accent, and at least that's what I felt. And then the words, there are certain Indian words that when Raj was trying to pronounce them, they came out wrong. So if you're looking for authenticity in pronouncing the names of places and people, then maybe the Audible version is not a good choice. But otherwise, Raj's narrative was doable. It was something that doesn't create any problems, and while there are not a lot of tonal ranges that Raj explores, the book is understandable in the audio format. Now, when it comes to about the book itself, I've actually pulled 3 cards to represent Latitudes of Longing by Shubhangi Swarup, and 2 of these cards deal with the book itself, the content itself, and another card deals with how I felt about it. So I'm just gonna pull the 2 cards first, which I feel represent the content of the book. Right, so first off, we have this one, which is the 6 of Cups. Now, the 6 of Cups is a card of childhood, of reminiscing, of waiting for, or indulging in memories of old times. So this book sort of follows that forward, backward, past, future kind of narrative, where it keeps switching back and forth, and a lot of people keep reminiscing about the past and what they've lost compared to what they have today. So that theme of remembering what was there in the past and wishing that they were back in the past when people were more nature focused and nature driven, that is a theme that keeps repeating in the book. Another card that I feel represents Latitudes of Longing a lot is the plant seed card. Now, like I said, this book is chock full of research about nature and conservation, and it does try to give the message that climate change is a man-made problem that is destroying the earth, and how deforestation and culling of animals, spaces where they can stay, is effectively kind of driving them towards extinction. So we need to be more mindful about how we deal with our plants, our animals, our flora, fauna, and how we take care of the earth. So it is planting the seeds for conservation. It is planting the seeds for younger people who pick up this book book to be more mindful about the choices that they make, right? From what kind of brands they purchase from, to how they lead their lives, such as not littering, or helping animals that are in distress, and generally trying to reduce the impact of climate change, right? So I do believe that in that sense this book is excellent, because it does drive home the point of conservation and of trying to recapture the earth, or rather help it become what it once was before, reach its former glory, if you could call it that, right? So in that sense, I do think this book is really good. In terms of how I felt about the book, then it has to be the Five of Cups. And because the Five of Cups does represent remorse and regret about your choices and your decisions. And although initially I was impressed with the amount of research that Shubhangi has done for the book, I ended up regretting my purchase, because I felt like this book is categorized under fiction, and honestly there was very less fiction. The characters weren't fleshed out well. You don't feel particularly empathetic towards anyone, and honestly I was just at the in the fag end, around 30%, 40% of the book, I was just kind of reading the book and listening to the audio version, and just hoping that the book would just end, because it was just a little boring. Like I found the nice non-fiction, the scientific content really good, but the fiction part was not memorable and it was not impressive. So I kind of regretted my purchase, and so I sort of feel like the Five of Cups represents my feelings about the book really well. But if you want to just look at the book itself without being influenced by my personal opinion, then I think you should definitely consider the plant seed card as a deciding factor, because the book does have a lot of information that is very eye-opening, very insightful. And if you enjoy learning about natural sciences and about the earth, and you want to know how you can help facilitate a positive change in the earth, then definitely this is a book that you can consider picking up. So yeah, that brings me to the end of this episode of Books and Tarot, and I promise I will keep up the momentum for this particular series. But thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye bye.